The morning began like any other in the small farming village. The roosters had crowed. Smoke curled lazily from mud-brick kitchens, and children rubbed sleep in their eyes as mothers prepared the first meals of the day. But the peaceful rhythm shattered when a terrible cry split the air, the deep, desperate bellow of a dairy cow in mortal distress. Farmers dropped their tools and women spilled into the dusty lanes, clutching their children tightly. At the edge of the pasture, where the grass grew tall near the jungle's fringe, they saw a sight that froze their blood. A monstrous python, thick as a tree trunk and long as a cart, had struck. Its scales, glistening in shades of mossy green and bronze, shimmered with the morning light as it wound itself tighter around a terrified cow. The cow's wide, terrified eyes rolled as she thrashed helplessly, her hooves striking the earth. But every movement only dug her deeper into the serpent's suffocating embrace. Dust swirled in the air, mingling with the sour scent of fear, sweat, and churned-up soil. Villagers gasped, some clutching their mouths, children in behind skirts, and older men exchanged tense glances. They had seen leopards, jackals, even wolves threaten livestock before, but never had such a monstrous serpent invaded their fields. Everyone knew that once a python locked its coils, escape was nearly impossible. Its strength was silent, merciless, and older than human memory itself. For long moments, the villagers could only stare, trapped between fear and despair, while the cow's cries weakened into ragged moans. Then, someone shouted what everyone was thinking. Called a rescue team. The village had no soldiers or mighty weapons, but had men who carried courage like a second skin, farmers, hunters, and shepherds who had stood together against danger before. Still, this was no ordinary predator. This was nature's living nightmare. And so, the alarm spread like fire, summoning the brave few who would face death itself to save one helpless creature. The rescue team arrived in haste, each man armed not with swords or guns, but with the tools of the land, thick ropes, bamboo poles, and the raw strength of unity. Their faces were set with grim determination, their clothes still dusty from the fields. At their front was Arif, a tall farmer known for his quick thinking, his weathered face stern but calm. With him came Bilal, a wiry hunter with eyes sharp as flint, and Kareem, a blacksmith whose arms bulged with muscle from years at the forge. Together with 3 others, they formed the heart of the rescue team. The villagers parted, giving way as the men advanced toward the writhing struggle. The python's head lifted, tongue flicking the air, its cold eyes unblinking as it sensed new challengers. The cow let out another strangled cry, foam flecking her mouth as her knees buckled under the crushing weight. Arif raised a hand, signaling silence. The team needed focus, not panic. If we strike its head, it will lash out. If we pull wrongly, the cow will be crushed, he said in a low, steady voice. We must work together like one hand. The men spread out, each taking a position. Kareem ready to rope, his strong arms prepared to pull with all his might. Bilal gripped a bamboo pole, planning to distract the serpent's head. Others prepared to strike its coils with sticks, hoping to loosen its deadly grip. The villagers held their breath, whispering prayers. They knew that if the python turned its fury on the men, it could kill a person as easily as a cow. But no one moved to run. The fate of the cow, and perhaps their courage as a community, rested on the shoulders of these men. The jungle seemed to hold its breath too, as if even the trees and birds waited to see the outcome of this desperate gamble. The battle began with a sharp cry from Bilal, who darted forward, waving his bamboo pole before the python's head. The serpent hissed, its jaws gaping to reveal curved fangs as it struck at the distraction. In that moment, Kareem and Arif hurled ropes across its coiled body, the thick fibers digging between scales. With grunts of effort, they pulled, their muscles straining as the coils shifted slightly. The cow bellowed weakly, her lungs desperate for air. Another rescuer rushed in with a heavy stick, striking at the python's thick midsection, while others tugged at the rope with all their strength. The ground shook with the serpent's violent thrashing. Dust and broken grass filled the air, stinging eyes and throats. The python whipped its tail like a whip, striking one man's leg and nearly toppling him. Cries rose from the crowd, but the rescuers did not falter. Sweat poured down their faces, their breath ragged, their bodies screaming with exhaustion, yet they fought on. The python writhed, trying to tighten its coils again, but the combined force of 6 men pulling, striking, and shouting made it falter. The struggle was primal, man against beast, courage against raw power. Every second felt like an eternity. The villagers shouted encouragement, women prayed aloud, children clung to one another. The snake's hiss was like steam escaping a furnace, its body a living wall of muscle. Yet the men refused to surrender. For the cow, for their community, for their very dignity, they held their ground. And slowly, agonizingly, the serpent's coils began to loosen. The moment of decision came in a blur of dust and chaos. With one final heave, Arif and Kareem pulled the thickest coil free, creating enough space for the cow to gasp with desperate breath. Her sides heaved, her eyes wide with fear but alive. The python reared, striking wildly, its head lunging at Bilal, who narrowly dodged, the fangs slicing the air where his shoulder had been. With a cry, one of the rescuers drove his stick into the ground between the snake and the cow, forcing the beast back. Another loop of rope tightened around its tail, and with a chorus of grunts and shouts, the men dragged it further away. The serpent thrashed violently, its immense body slamming against the earth with thunderous force, but the rescuers held on like anchors in a storm. At last, realizing its prey was slipping away and its attackers were relentless, the python released the cow completely. With a final hiss that echoed across the field, it slithered back toward the jungle, its massive body undulating like a river of scales until it vanished into the shadows of the trees. Silence fell, broken only by the ragged breathing of men and cow alike. The dairy cow collapsed onto her knees, trembling, her sides rising and falling rapidly. Villagers rushed forward, some with water, others with cloths to check her injuries. Though bruised and weak, she was alive. The rescuers staggered, their clothes torn, their arms bruised, but their eyes shone with fierce triumph. They had faced death and prevailed. The field that had moments ago echoed with cries of terror now erupted with cheers of relief and gratitude. The people embraced their heroes, tears shining in their eyes, voices trembling with emotion. As the sun climbed higher, casting golden light over the fields, the village slowly returned to calm, though the memory of the struggle would never fade. The rescued cow was led back to the barn, where she was carefully tended, her flanks rubbed with healing salves, her breast growing steadier with each hour. The children, who had watched in wide-eyed silence, now ran about retelling the battle with wild gestures, their voices high with excitement. Elders gathered beneath the banyan tree, shaking their heads in awe and whispering of the courage they had witnessed. "We faced a python and did not fall," one said, his voice trembling with pride. Travelers carried it to neighboring towns, and soon people spoke of the brave rescue team who confronted a giant python with nothing but ropes, sticks, and the strength of their hearts. It became more than just a tale of a cow and a snake. It became a lesson about unity, compassion, and the courage to face what seems impossible. Around evening, as the sky blazed red with sunset, the villagers gathered once more in the pasture. Children lit small lamps, placing them along the field's edge as a symbol of gratitude and remembrance. The cow stood among them, calm now, her dark eyes reflecting the flickering lights. The cow stood among them, calm now, her dark eyes reflecting the flickering lights. Arif looked upon her and then at her companions, and with quiet smile said, "We only did what anyone should do. Protect life, no matter how great the danger." The words settled over the crowd like a blessing. And thus, the legend of the cow and the python was born, carried in hearts and voices, a timeless reminder that when people stand together with courage, even the mightiest dangers can be overcome.